Hi, guys. Welcome back to Guy Set, a guy's guide to what should be talked about. It is officially intern season, as it is at the start of every summer, so I thought it would be fun to make kind of like a Josh Declassified intern survival guide. What you need to know before starting your internship, or what would be helpful to know before you start or during your first few weeks of your internship or your new job or your new position. Think of it as like what would be helpful to know or what would set me up for success, whether this is your first internship, your second internship, your third, really anywhere in between. I also think a lot of this advice and what I'm going to say in here applies to a first job, a second job, a third job, really like any time in your career. These pieces of advice, the things I'm about to say, I think would be really helpful to you. They've been helpful to me. These are things that I have heard from people that have mentored me, previous bosses, older coworkers, and just like things I'd want to tell you before you start your internship. And if you've already started already, don't worry, like you're totally in the right place. This is a great thing to listen to as like a reminder or a refresher. You could come back to this really at any time throughout your internship, throughout your job. It's a good thing to come back to because a lot of the time we get kind of settled into the position or complacent, or we forget what our intention was and what we originally set out to do when we've been in the job or in the position for a bunch of weeks at a time, and we've been in the internship for a month or two at that point. So we forget that like we really want to get a return offer, we want to stay successful, or we want people to know our work, or we want to make ourselves known or make ourselves indispensable, provide our value, show our value, provide that you're, or prove that you are worth bringing back, or you're a valuable asset to the team. And these would be helpful things to remember or to like refresh yourself on. I think of this as like the perfect thing to listen to before you walk in the doors or go up the elevator or on a day when you're going into the office. Not every day, that would be like a little nuts, but like on a day when you're walking into the office, I think this would be, or getting into the office, whether you're driving, subwaying, walking, whatever your mode of transportation is. I think this would be a really great thing to listen to as like a pump up, like a prep for the day, for the internship. And a good thing, as I said, to revisit a few weeks in or a few months in. And I think this advice really does apply universally to any position or any time in your career when you're looking for a reminder or kind of like a reset, or like a let me realign what my intentions are or what I intend to do here and what I want to do, what I really want to see for myself in my career, as we can forget that a lot of the time and over time especially. So these are the things that people have told me, that I have learned over my internships and my job experiences, things I've learned from being an intern myself, and also things I've learned from having an intern. I have kind of combined all of those experiences, all of those learnings into a list that I'm going to share with you today that I think would be helpful, that I think would really help you set yourself up for success in the internship, in the job, in whatever you're in. So let's get into it. The first one, and I've talked about this on here before, but I really think this is something that is a new piece of advice because this didn't apply to our parents or their parents or previous generations. And it's really simple and it's really small, but I think it's really impactful. And that is taking out your AirPods before you get into the office. If you walk in with your AirPods in, if you have headphones in, or not just AirPods, headphones, whatever it is, if you're on your phone, this all kind of fits into that category. You're not present. You're not really paying attention to the people around you or what's going on or who's there and who's talking or what they're talking about or how you can join or what you can say. And I think taking out your AirPods, I'm going to say AirPods, and in that category is being on your phone, scrolling on your phone, texting when you're walking in, any sort of headphones, like it is really important, I think, to be present when you walk in. I think having your shoulders back and walking in with your head held high, paying attention to your surroundings and the people around you, and saying hi to people, saying, hey, how you doing? How was the weekend? Good morning. What's up? Like, interacting with people in those small ways may feel really small, but I think it makes a big impact. I really believe that when you're present, you set yourself up so much more for success versus when you have your AirPods in, when you're distracted, when you're texting. I also think this extends to any time you're in a common space. That means the kitchen, any common space, shared area where you guys have like big meetings, any like walking in area, like all of those places where there's a lot of people that congregate. I think getting off your phone, even putting it in your pocket and like putting it away, not even in your hand that you can like see a text and you're like, oh yeah, like staying present for those types of things are where you can really make small but very significant interactions with people. Or you can meet somebody or say like, hey, how are you? And like, I'm Josh, nice to meet you. Or hey, I heard you're working on this, or I heard this thing from it. And like where you can actually make those small but significant interactions and have those moments with people where you wouldn't get otherwise. I think this is why so many like higher ups and CEOs are so like big on having in-person work experiences and having you work in person and remote, or like that mix. And we're kind of seeing a big shift back to in-person work. Like I have some friends who are now 5 days a week completely. I have some friends who are 3 or 4. I was personally 3 days a week, 4 days a week. It shifted depending on the company, and it will depending on your company. But I think that is the best part about being in person, is that you can actually interact with people and have these moments that you don't get otherwise, that you're not going to like randomly send somebody a Slack. You could, we'll get to this in a little bit, but like you're most likely not going to send somebody a Slack and be like, hey, how was the weekend? Or hey, like you're not going to like text somebody over Slack like that unless you're good work friends or good coworker buddies. But before that, like the ability to say hi to somebody or like ask what they're having for lunch or what they're doing for lunch, or if they want to get a coffee with you, or if they want to do a coffee chat, all of the things we'll get to in a couple of these pieces of advice or the next few points. It's just like being present gives you such a better ability to meet people, interact with people, make a name for yourself, prove yourself, introduce yourself. Like it really makes a big impact. So talk to people, say hi to everybody, be present. That's my first one. And I think it's a really big one. So if you take one thing from this, like walk into the AirPods present, head held high, shoulders back, no AirPods, don't be on your phone, maybe put your phone in your pocket, and say hi to people, say good morning, like say, hi, I'm Josh, nice to meet you, I'm working on this, or my position is this, what do you do? From there, I think it's such a great opportunity to say, like, I'd love to get to know more about what you're working on, or I'd like to hear more about what you're working on. Like, are you available for a coffee chat sometime this week? Or are you free to take a walk and go get a coffee? Or do you have 30 minutes that we could talk? I'd love to hear more about what you're working on or what you've done so far, or your opinions on this, or your perspective that you've learned from working at this company. Like, having that mentality and that mindset of introducing yourself, saying hi to people, asking them for some time to get to know them, really makes you a very valuable asset at the company. So that's the kind of the second piece of advice I had. It kind of merged into two, but meet everybody and say hi to everybody. Introduce yourself and tell them what you're working on, or what you'll be doing here, or what you think you'll be doing here, what the position is, and ask them if you can be of any assistance to them, or if they have any advice for you. Like, these are, it's like such an amazing opportunity to have everybody around you, because everybody else knows more than you do. Like, when you walk into somewhere and you're new, you know less, and you have an opportunity to absorb all of their information and everything they know like a sponge. So getting to hear their thoughts on the company, or how the company's grown, or where it's progressing, or where it's not, or what they're working on, or what they're doing, or their favorite thing they've worked on, like getting to hear all that information, like you just absorb so much, and that's really valuable too. So meet everybody, introduce yourself, just introduce about what you're doing and what you're working on, and that is the next thing, is making yourself known is a really good way to get another offer, get asked back, get a return offer. If people like you and they're looking for you and they want to work with you, and that is all like provided through showing them your value and what you do and what you can do. And in part, that is just saying hi to people and like being a personality, like making yourself known is a really good thing that you can do at any internship or any job. And ask them for 15 minutes or 30 minutes. Like, even if you don't do it in the moment, you can follow up with them on Slack or Teams or whatever you guys use at that company. You can follow up with them and just be like, hey, it was really nice to meet you. I'd love to get to know more about what you're doing or what you're working on or what you've done here so far. And like, do you have 15 or 30 minutes this week or next week? Most likely, like, they are going to say yes. They see a young person who's impressionable, who wants to learn, who's eager to meet people, who's excited to be there, and they want to be a part of that. Like, people like to be a mentor in a way, or make a new colleague or coworker friend. Like, people are looking for that, and they're not gonna turn you down. So don't be afraid, don't be shy in introducing yourself, asking them to do a coffee chat. That's what a coffee chat is, by the way. Like, people call it a coffee chat. It's literally just 30 minutes of meeting somebody and talking to them. Like, it's just a meeting is another word for coffee chat, but it's more casual. There's no real agenda beside introducing yourself, talking to each other, talking about what you like, what you don't like. Some good questions to ask if you do those coffee chats, and you should do coffee chats. You should try, like, my advice is to try and set up like one a week. I think that's a good number because internships aren't that long. They're like 2.5, 3 months. So one a week is like that means you've met 8 extra people than you would outside of your team or even on your team. Like, there's probably people that you don't work directly with all the time, and it would be great for them to get to know you and your intentions, and same for you for them. So spending 30 minutes with somebody is a really good way to get to know them a lot better. Some good questions to ask are like, what is a favorite project that you've worked on so far? Or what has been the most impactful thing you've done here so far? What are you working on right now? What do you want to be working on? Like, what is your goal? What is your intention for the year? Where do you see the team in a year? Where do you see what you're working on in a year? All of those are really good questions. Asking what advice they have for you is a great question, and you should ask that in every coffee chat you have, or not to every single person you meet. You're not gonna be like, hi, I'm Josh. What advice do you have for me? Like, blah, 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 blah. Like, no, you're not gonna be like a nuts, like rabid dog around the office, but like being eager and excited, and at some point, like in a well-placed way, asking them what advice they have for you is a really good thing to do, because most likely they're going to have great advice, and some people won't and some people will, but of the few that do, it's going to be great. And I learned a ton that way. Like, I got some of the best advice I have heard by asking people directly for their advice. And then also asking them, like, if they have somebody else that would be good for you to meet, or if they have somebody they recommend that you meet next. That sets you up for your next one without having to do like so much work and going around and meeting people. But like, it's a good way for them to introduce you to somebody new that you may not know otherwise. Depending on how big your company is. I mean, some companies are 5 people, some companies are 50,000. Like, it's a great way to start that train of introductions and meeting. So ask them who they recommend you should talk to next, because they're going to have somebody. And I think those are great questions to start with. Have like 2 or 3 questions. That's really all you need. How long you've worked here, what you're working on, what has been the most impactful thing you've worked on so far, what advice do you have for me, who should I talk to next? And let the rest of the conversation flow from there. Like, you don't have to have a set agenda, but it's a good thing to have a couple questions prepared when you're asking somebody to talk. The next one is consistently asking your boss or whoever you're working for, is there anything else I can do? It's a really simple question, yet so many people don't do it, and it's a really good way to set yourself apart. Is there anything I can do to help you? Is there anything else I can do for you? Or what can I do to help? Is there anything that I can do that would be helpful? All of the same, different phrasing to say the same thing of what can I do to help you? Offering yourself up as somebody who is willing, who's able, who's attentive, who wants to be there, who's excited to work, who wants to really make an impact is the best way to stand out. I know I've said it a couple times, but like this is probably like the number one way to stand out, is asking your boss how you can be helpful and valuable. And it's a really simple thing that you can do at the end of the day, or if you find yourself in a moment where you don't have anything to do, or you don't have work, or even at the end of the week. And even if you do have a lot of work, asking them, What can I do to help you? Or is there something I could do that makes your life easier? Like a lot of the time, like interns or we as interns, I felt this way myself. Like I thought that I was important, which is funny. And I'm not saying you're not important as an intern. You are. You're very important. Don't worry. But you feel like the boss is there to give you work and set you up, and like that is the only thing they have to do. And a lot of the time, having an intern is actually more work on top of the work you already have, because you have to figure out how to set them up, or what to give to them, or how to make sure that they feel like they're having a valuable and a good experience at the internship. So it's a lot of extra work on top of it. And a lot of times, like bosses will forget to give an intern work, or will forget to follow up with them. So saying like, hey, I've completed this, or I'm happy to like present this to you. I just finished up this thing. Like, is there anything I can do to be valuable? Or is there anything I can do that would be of assistance, that would be helpful for you? Is a great thing to say. Like, get acquainted with saying that line a lot. Start putting that in your vocabulary, in what you say at the end of the day, or when you don't have work, or at the end of the week, like I said. Those lines, asking what you can do to be of assistance, it is a great way to show that you are valuable to your boss or to whoever you're working for. And I know that, like, you don't want to be doing work. Like, nobody wants to be doing more work than they already have. Or if you don't have work, you may look at it as a time of, like, I don't have that much to do. Like, that's amazing. I can go, like, chill on my phone, or, like, twiddle my thumbs, or, like, go poop. Like, there's just, like, you don't want to be doing more work. But if there is a moment where there's not really something to do, that is a sign that maybe there is more you can be doing. So putting yourself out there and volunteering to do things, or offering to step up and do that kind of goes hand in hand with what I'm saying too. Like, if your boss or your team or somebody on the team is looking for somebody to do something, and you have the time and your boss approves it, like saying yes, raising your hand for it, this is a great way to leave a good impression with the team or with your boss, that you were somebody that was looking to help, that you were somebody that wanted to help. And you can also offer to do work. And I know this is a funny one too, but like these are all like ways in which I'm saying that you should give yourself more work. But especially in a first internship, especially at a first job, like these are important things to do. These are really like, these are the ways to stand out. I'm really like telling you what I think is really valuable and really helpful, and I've found helpful, and I feel like, and I know for a fact that my bosses have found helpful. People don't realize this one, because it falls into like it's the same category, but it's like maybe section C of it. Like, you can propose things to work on, and you can come up with things to do. Like, if you find that there is something that you heard in a meeting, or something your boss said that inspires an idea, or you came up with this own idea if you came up with this idea on your own, and you were like, this would be good. Like, I think this would be great for the team, or this would be great for the project we're working on, or this would be really helpful. Like, you can say like, hey, I was thinking about this thing, and I would be happy to research this further, or I'd be happy to like create a deck or a proposal, or like work on this thing, because I think it'd be really helpful. Like, I had this idea from what you said in that meeting, or from what Joe said in the meeting, and like, I think that this would be great and really beneficial to the team. Showing that sort of initiative is awesome. Like, seriously, like showing that you heard this thing and you came up with this thing on your own, like that's great. And I think bosses love that shit. Like, they do. They love when an intern or somebody lower on the totem pole is like, I thought of this idea and I'm really excited to try it out, or just research it more, or present it back to you in a week or so, or work on this, and then we can discuss if it's worthwhile, or I'd love to continue working on this, and I think that I could take it in this direction. Like, sick. Yes, that's awesome. And I think that people forget that you can do that, or you don't think that you can do that, especially when you're lower, or you're just starting, or you're new. You absolutely can, and it's a great way to stand out, and you should. You can and you should. If there is something that you find or you think would be helpful or beneficial or valuable, present it. Ask if your boss if you can work on this, and show them that you have initiative. This is a great way to show initiative. And it might seem like more work or extra work, but it really shows that you care, which is a really important thing when you're starting out, showing that you care. I don't regret for a second the extra effort that I put in during my internship. Like, actually, I personally loved it when I was starting out because I was like, oh, this is like work is, you're not as like inundated with the fact that like work sucks when you're starting out and like this is your life and this is what it is. Like, you'll be working a 9 to 5 or in some sort of position, maybe working for somebody or reporting to somebody for a long time. And that doesn't really like kick into gear until you're in a job for like a couple years at that point, and you are excited to be there. Like, starting out is exciting and it's a new opportunity and it can really feel fun. So hold on to that for as long as you can, and like really try your best not to be like not narcissistic. What's the word? Try not to be like nihilistic, and maybe that's the word, about what it is yet. And if you are excited, like, that's great. Stay excited. There's no reason to be like, I shouldn't be excited. This is work. This is a job. Like, you don't have to have that mindset. You don't have to adopt this like cynical, that's the word. You don't have to adopt this like cynical, I don't know what nihilism means. I think it's like death or something. I don't know. But you don't have to adopt this cynical perspective if you don't have it. So if you are excited to work, and like, I really genuinely don't regret for a second the effort I put into my first few jobs. And I really think it showed that I was excited to be there, that it showed initiative, it showed that I care, it showed effort, and I really think it made me stand out to my bosses. I think it's the reason I stayed at the jobs that I had, and the reason I got promoted and asked to come back after my internships, and asked to come on full time. And like, I think a lot of that is due to the effort I put in and the extra effort I put in, and I recommend you do the same. I think it's worth a shot, and it's worth your time and effort. And as a follow-up, like directly to that one, make sure people, and especially your boss, know what you're doing and what you've worked on. This is one that kind of falls into the like, interns are kind of maybe forgotten sometimes, or like they're that extra work that bosses have to do or deal with. Make sure that like you are presenting what you're working on, or showing them what you've worked on, or talking to them about what you've worked on, or what you've learned from what you're working on. Like, that is your job, and it doesn't always feel like it's your job. And like, as an intern, this is one of the things that like I didn't know when I started, and I don't think anybody really tells you. I think it's a good thing to be told, and I'm happy you're here listening to this, because I wish somebody told me this earlier. Like, your boss isn't going to come to you and be like, what did you work on this week? Or like, what have you done? And maybe they will, but most of the time they won't. And it's important for you to be like, I've been working on this, this, and this. And like, what I used to do in my internship, like actually what they had us do was send into the Slack channel, like the 3 things we're working on, or the 3 things we've worked on this past week or this week, and the 3 things we'll be working on next week. And the entire team sent that. And it was like a kind of weird, but very good, like transparent, like look into what everybody was doing. And I think more teams would probably benefit from that type of transparency, and really like knowing and understanding what everybody is doing, because it like really opened up like she's working on this and I'm working on this, so maybe we could connect, or we could collab, or we should definitely talk, or he's doing this next week and I'm also doing this next week, but like we didn't know that we were, so we should definitely meet. And like, somebody would say that I think what you're working on is interesting. Like, can I work on that with you? Or can I help you out? Is there anything I can do? Like, that type of stuff would happen a lot. It led to a lot more collaboration. But I think this is a good thing to do yourself, that like, you don't even have to send this to your boss. If they're not asking you, definitely don't send it if they're not asking you to send it. But like, at the end of every week, or at the start of every week, write a list of like, here are the 3 things. It's good for the end. Write a list of the 3 things that you've worked on, and for the next week, write 3 things that you're going to work on. And if they're ongoing, that's totally fine. It can be the same, but like, make sure you are aligned with what you're working on, and make sure your boss knows. So when you meet with them, you probably are going to have like a weekly or a daily or whatever you have with them. Make sure they know that, like, or you say to them, like, I'm working on this and this, and I'm going to be working on this when I'm done with that. That is your responsibility to do, and it doesn't feel like it, and you may not know it is, but it is your responsibility to share that with your boss and give them a window into what you're doing, because a lot of the time they also have their own work and they have their own shit to deal with. So letting them know what you're doing is helpful. And this was advice, by the way, that I got from the CEO of Barstool Sports, the previous CEO. Her name was Erica Ayers-Badon, and she came on, I believe it was like episode 23. She came on and she said the best way to show your value or get a promotion or get a raise is to present what you've done and how it's been valuable and how it's contributed to the company. And I think a lot of the time we forget that it is our responsibility, even outside of internships, even in normal jobs, we forget that it's our responsibility to make sure everybody knows what we're working on or what we've done or how we're valuable or what value we're providing. And it's a smart thing to do early on and anytime in your career. The next one I have for you is don't be afraid to ask questions. And this one sounds obvious, like, oh, there's no dumb questions. Like, don't be afraid to ask questions. I do genuinely believe that there aren't dumb questions. And like, of course, there are things that you should figure out on your own. Like, don't ask every single thing that pops into your head. So maybe there are some dumb questions. Obviously, use your reason and like if you can figure it out on your own, or you can ask your coworker and make it like a really quick question, like do that. But if you're in a meeting and something isn't clear or somebody said something that like doesn't sound like it makes any sense, I guarantee there is somebody else in the room that also does not know the answer to that question. So by asking it, you are doing them a favor, you're doing yourself a favor, you're clarifying it before it gets like way out of your hands and you're supposed to have worked on this thing that you didn't know and you're supposed to present on it tomorrow, but you didn't even know you were supposed to start on it. So like by asking the question, by clarifying it, clearing it up, like you are setting everybody else up for success too. So ask questions and don't be afraid to. In meetings and in conversations, go early. And I learned this from a speech expert and speechwriter. Her name is Megan Grano. She came on and talked to me about building confidence at work and in life and how to stand out at work and how to stand out in your job. And I think this was my favorite piece of advice. She said to go early. And what that means is that the longer you wait to speak in meetings or in conversations, the less likely you are to even speak in general. The longer you wait to speak up or raise your hand or contribute or say something, the less likely you are to contribute at all to the conversation. And if you make your voice heard early, if you start yourself in the conversation, if you basically just say like, I agree, or I think that makes a lot of sense, or you throw your idea in there early on, you are much more likely to stay in that conversation, to be active in it, to be engaged, to be a part of it. So if you're in a meeting and you've been in meetings for a little while now and you haven't said anything and you're looking for a way to, or you're looking for a way to start or gain that confidence to even say something in general, go early. Say something early on. That way, you are much more likely to contribute to the conversation moving forward and probably in general. It's a really good way to build confidence, and it's probably the best way to build confidence at work. Go early. And try this in your next meeting and let me know if it works, because it really has worked for me. There have been so many conversations or meetings where like I've sat there being like, I know I want to say something, but I haven't for so long, and like I don't know what's the right thing to say, or if I should, or like if I should contribute. I'm new, I'm young, I'm like green here, which means the same thing. Like I don't know if I'm valuable or if I should say this, or like the feeling of imposter syndrome kicks in and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing here in the first place. How did I get here? Do I belong here? Am I good enough to be here? Like all those negative and like anxious thoughts flood your head. But if you go early, if you even just say like, I agree with that, or I think that makes a lot of sense, or I'm not sure about that because of this, or I think that what you said makes sense and I think it relates to this thing, like we should work on this. Like if you just say something like along the lines, it doesn't have to be a huge, massive thought. It doesn't have to be groundbreaking or earth shattering, but just going early, getting yourself involved, throwing yourself in the ring. It's the best way to start and it's the best way to build confidence. The next one is a simple one, but it's to keep a list of contacts and make it a running list. So when you meet somebody, when you have those conversations, keep an organized list of the people and what they do. And like, this is something I wish I did earlier in my career. And I started doing it much later. And then I retroactively had to go back, and I've definitely missed a bunch of people. And like, there's been somebody that I've wanted to reach out to, but I didn't find their name correctly, or I didn't keep their contact correctly. And I think this is a really good thing to stay organized in who you've met, stay organized with your contacts, and maintain it, like keep it clean and consistent. And I really wish I did this sooner, because it would have been helpful, and it still would be helpful to me now. I think this is a good piece of advice for anybody, is just to keep a list of contacts. It's simple, but I think it's really beneficial. A few don'ts, a few things that I would say to avoid or do not do. Obviously, do not show up late. Like if you are asked to be there at 9, get there at 8:50. Like a good rule of thumb is 5 to 10 minutes before you're expected there. Also, do not leave before your boss leaves. If you don't know when to leave, a great rule of thumb is leave after your boss. When they leave, then you can go. And if you really don't know, you can ask them. And if you don't know when to show up, you can ask them. Like a lot of the times we're afraid to ask our bosses these questions because we feel like it's stupid or like, but there's no other way to know. Like each office, each workplace has different rules and strictures and expectations that are set upon you. If you don't know something, like feel free to ask your boss. Like there's nobody else or a coworker or somebody else on your team. Nobody else knows how your workplace works exactly. And like, there's no universal advice for showing up and leaving. But a good rule of thumb is 5 to 10 minutes before you're supposed to be there, show up then, and don't leave till after your boss leaves. Also, things I wish I was told earlier, but I think that would be helpful for you to know as part of my intern school survival guide. Don't dress too casually. Like a good idea on a first day is to wear a button down and pants or slacks. And if you're overdressed or if you feel like you're going to be overdressed, like you can slack either the person in HR who got you or you were talking to get you the job, or you can slack your boss and ask them like, hey, what is the attire? Or hey, like, could you let me know what I'm expected to wear or something like that? Again, this is another question that we're always like afraid to ask, but we should just ask because there's no other way to find out the exact answer. If you're in a startup, it's much more casual and some people wear fucking shorts to work. Like, I never did, but like I would wear like jeans or pants and like a t-shirt, which is much more casual than my friends who worked at like fucking JP Morgan who would have to wear a suit and tie every day or whatever. I don't even think they have to wear a suit and tie. I don't know if anyone has to wear a suit and tie besides like lawyers, but like a good rule of thumb is wear a button down and pants the first day. And if you don't know, ask your HR person or your boss and ask because it's the best way to figure out what to do. And then once you're there, look around what everybody else is wearing. Like if your coworker is wearing a t-shirt and jeans and so is your boss, that's probably what you should wear. But if they're all wearing a button down and pants and jacket, like that's probably what you should wear. So first day is always the hardest, but after that, just look around at what everyone's wearing and adopt that style or that sense of style or whatever it says. Adopt that code of dress code. Don't drink too much at happy hours. Another good one that I think doesn't need to be said, but is important to say. Limit yourself to like 2 to 3 drinks at a happy hour, especially if you're young. Like happy hours are so fun, but like this is also a work event and it should be looked at like a work event. This does not apply to if you're going out to drinks with like 2 work buddies. Like that's all you do, whatever the fuck you want there. But if you're at a work event and your boss is there and the CEO is there and the CFO and all the other C's, like if they're all there, really limit yourself to like, I mean, this is my personal rule and I'm sharing it with you, but like, and you can feel free to figure it out for yourself. I've definitely gotten too drunk at a couple work happy hours. And like the next day been like, what the fuck did I say to that person? And work anxiety is much worse. Very different, but also worse than regular anxiety because you're like, what did I say to the CFO? Like, why was I talking to I was talking to the CFO? What? So my recommendation for you is to limit yourself at happy hours and not to drink too much. I know this one's no fun. I know this is like, boo, you suck. But like, it's something I have to do. And I feel like it's important to do as the creator of the Intern Survival Guide, School Survival Guide. Don't shit talk. Like if you're in the office, don't shit talk. Also a mistake so many people make because it is important to know that everybody knows everybody. And if they don't know that person, they know somebody who knows that person. So everybody's connected in a way. Make sure that you're not shit talking or like inside the workplace, or just be careful of what you say to who, because it can always get back to you, and that's something that you don't want to get back to you, or you should just never have to be in that position. So avoid shit talking. Also another boo, no fun one, but like something that I think is important to say too, because I've seen coworkers get in real shit for shit talking, and it always gets back to them. It always does. And at the end of your internship, send a goodbye email to the people that have had an impact on you. At this point, hopefully you've kept a list of the contacts and you've kept their emails or their phone numbers or whatever it is. But I think it's good practice to say, and this is something that I've never been told, or like advice that I think should be shared more widely. But send an email being like, hi, everyone, like today is my last day. I learned so much from all of you and I've had such a great time at this position. I can try and find the email that I sent, but something along the lines of like, I have learned so much here and my time here has been so valuable. Like I really hope to be back here, and please don't hesitate to reach out. Here's my email, or here's my personal email if you want to send them out, your phone number, whatever it is. I think it is a good thing to do. I think this is it's another way to set you apart as like, wow, I really liked him. I really liked working with him, and I think he was really valuable. I hope to see him around here again. I hope he gets a return offer. Having that as like a final taste in somebody's mouth, not great wording, sorry about that. Having that as like the final thing you do is just a good way to leave people. It's a good way to leave your mark somewhere. So send a goodbye email at the end of the summer, at the end of the internship, or when you're leaving the job, or whatever it is. This is a good practice for, I think, anybody at any job. And that is the intern survival guide. That is if you're starting out, my advice for what to do and how to stand out, or how to make a name for yourself, how to leave your mark somewhere and have people see you as beneficial and valuable and somebody they want to work with and somebody they want back. And I think that these things are really helpful. I think that this is going to set you apart if you apply a few of these to your work experience, or if you start doing these tomorrow or even today or next week or whenever it is. But this is a great way to set yourself apart. And that is the intern survival guide. Good luck, and you'll be great. Have some confidence in what you're doing. Believe in yourself, and you're going to crush it. Like, just believe in yourself. You're going to crush it. That is the episode. Thank you so much for listening to Guy Said, a guy's guide to what should be talked about. I'm Josh. I'm 26 years old, and I'm here every single week, every single Tuesday, to talk about what should be talked about for guys. If you like this episode, I really hope you did. Please like, subscribe to this podcast, 5 stars, and leave a review. That's what I do for 5 stars, not 4, not 3, not 2, not 1. It's 5 stars. Thank you so much for that. I really, really appreciate that. If you have anything you want to talk about that should be talked about for guys, head over to guyset.com, GUYSET.com. There is an Ask Me Anything box right there. You can ask me anything. It's completely anonymous, and I'll be sure to talk about it. I will include it in next week's Dear Guy Set episode, which I do every third week of the month, where I answer listener questions and I answer the questions that guys are asking. It's one of my favorite episodes I do every single month, and ask your question for it to be included next week. You can also find so many more blog posts on guyset.com across dating, lifestyle, style, mindset, comparison, confidence, really anything I talk about on here. It's like an extension of what I do on here over there. So many more questions answered, advice. I give all of the opinions of the people I've had on here as well. So it's just a really great resource guide. And I'm really excited about what I'm building over there. So check out guyset.com. There's like 4 new blog posts a day on there. You can also watch this podcast on YouTube, as well as my other podcast called If You're Going on a Date This Week, where I talk about everything going on in the world in terms of music, movies, TV shows, pop culture, entertainment, sports, really anything going on in the world that you can talk about on your date, as just like a good way to get conversation starters, topics to talk about, something you can have in your back pocket if you don't know what to talk about on a date. Thank you so much for listening to Guy Set, a guy's guide to what should be talked about, and I will see you guys next Tuesday. See you guys.